What do you do when somebody switches stances on you? You know, so I'm orthodox, you're orthodox, and then I switch to southpaw. Now you're totally confused and you don't know what to do, right? Because when people switch stances, it's this unsolvable puzzle. Not really. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do when your opponent switches stances on you, and that's either from orthodox to southpaw or from southpaw to orthodox. I'm also at the end going to throw in a couple of little cue. You know, you want to work on orthodox, right? I'm going to tell you what you should be working on if you want to switch stances. But don't worry, this is not a how to kill southpaws thing. I'm taking a break from being prejudiced against southpaws. This is how to beat up a stupid right-handed guy that thinks he's going to be a southpaw. And now also, something that doesn't get talked about a lot, this is how you beat a southpaw. You know, as Tyler here's a southpaw, when he switches to orthodox, this is what you should be doing to beat him up too, but that's a less common type of idiot. And this is not how you beat Demetrius Johnson when he switches stances, right? This is for the beginner to intermediate. Say you've got a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years if you get all your striking training at an MMA gym. If you're still an intermediate, this is how to beat guys in that range. Once you get up to higher levels, which maybe I'll touch on a little bit, the game changes. But let's talk about what the game actually is. We're going to talk mostly about hands, but this applies to the feet as well. If Tyler's orthodox and I'm orthodox, my jab goes through here, his jab goes through there, and then our right hands go through here and here. But when we switch to open stance, no, I'll do it. I'll do this. I'll do this southpaw.
I had a feeling that was...
Yeah, I know how to do southpaw. I know how to switch now. My left hand goes through here. His right hand comes through here. But our lead hands sort of cancel out. The footwork thing, if we're at to the feet, everyone kind of knows that generally I want this, and Tyler also wants that. But this is also not the end of the world. We've done a video. I'll link it up there. When people switch stances, they're generally switching because something's not going well for them. That's the number one problem. So say Tyler's beating me up and I'm having a hard time, and I'll switch stances and I'll think, oh, this helps me create this puzzle that now he has to solve. I'm going to show you how to crack that thing wide open, and it's not complicated. It goes back to the punches that we just showed you. When we're closed stance, he's orthodox, I'm orthodox, our jabs are usually what we'll be initiating the exchanges with. That's kind of how we'll start our exchanges and decide what happens next. When we're open stance, it's generally going to be my rear hand that I initiate exchanges with, and so too for him. When someone switches on you, right in front of you, you need to go right away with that punch. And I mean right away. So we're having our little exchanges in orthodox, and Tyler decides it's not going well for him, and he switches. I need to go right away. So too, if he's southpaw, and we're having some exchanges, and he switches on me, all right, I need to go right away to the jab. Here's the less common one. This is what you need to work on. I'm glad you're here. You're southpaw. I'm southpaw. This is tough for a lot of southpaws. Southpaws will report back that this is as tough for them as when orthodox fighters fight a southpaw, because his advantage is not that he's left-handed. His advantage is that he's had more practice at doing this than you. One thing that you neglect a lot, I was talking to you today, is that right hook to the body, all right? Because you don't do that normally. You forget about it. And if I'm not really a southpaw player, or even if I am, and I'm going against a southpaw, I'm not used to that shot. Yeah. That's not a thing that I very often have to protect. But southpaws have rights too. When he throws that thing, my arm is probably not going to be in place. If you're a southpaw and some orthodox dude decides, I know the solution to this puzzle, and they decide to switch on you through whatever means, you need to remember that you have a right, and throw that thing fast, immediately, straight away, like you're an orthodox fighter, because we've essentially gone back to vanilla striking. Here, just standard textbook, orthodox versus orthodox. So I'm getting beat up, I'm having problems, right? And then I switch. You need to get on that jab right away. And see his little southpaw brain, it took him a second to compute that.
That looked ugly.
Right, we need to work on that. So we're doing our normal thing. You're southpaw, I'm orthodox, right? I start having trouble and I switch. Boom, see, faster. As soon as my feet go, throw that jab immediately, right away. And you might think, but maybe I'm switching in order to do some stuff. Remember back at the beginning? We're talking about a guy who's in his beginner to intermediate stages and is switching to try to confuse you. By the way, southpaw's not that confusing. So I'm orthodox. We're having an exchange. It's not going my way. I switch. Boom. The jab. Yeah, you need to start throwing regular stuff. And then finish up with that hook to the body. Boom. It's not a combo that you usually throw. Or you shouldn't be. Maybe you train at one of these schools where they just tell the south.
Other southpaws.
Yeah.
Most of them do.
Oh, yikes. We've done a video on that before too. I'll link that up there.
You see a lot of them like coming out with Philly shells and stuff too, and it makes no sense.
You know, when I made the "You Are Not a Southpaw" video for right-handers, like that was a big controversial take.
Yeah.
I'll do another one. There's no southpaw Philly shell.
You can't do that shit unless you go against another like we're doing right now. Like this is the time you would do it.
And you don't have the practice at it. You have that 10% of your time spent practicing this scenario. You probably could. There's probably going to be someone that's like, yeah, right. So and so's a southpaw Philly shell, right?
No, I've seen. I mean.
Yeah. You know why you can name him? Because it's an exception, not a rule.
They're not any good.
So I'm having trouble. You're tuning me up with your southpaw shenanigans. I switch, jab right away. Boom, boom, pow, yeah. So it's the feet. If we look at the feet, Tyler's got to respond as soon as he sees this. He needs to start getting more forward and aggressive. And it's a totally different game. It's not just the same moves on the other side. So too, when we are closed stance, I'm orthodox, you're orthodox. All right? As soon as you see my feet do their thing, whatever that is, whatever version, whether I do this one, right? Or I do this one, you need to start sending that right hand early and often. Get right on it. It's right away. It's immediate. And that's tough for people because they don't want to get countered and they think that once the person has switched, that now it's this new puzzle that they have to solve. It's not. It's very simple. The very first thing guys will do when they start saying they want to start switching stances is they'll walk over to a heavy bag. Do an impression of a heavy bag for me. Like you hanging from a heavy bag? Great, cool, perfect. They'll walk over to the heavy bag and go, oh man, I'm pretty good at this kick. And then they'll go like this. And then they'll go, oh, okay, that kick's not so good. Let me practice it some more. And then they'll start developing a good left kick, or they'll develop a good straight left or an okay straight left. The problem is Tyler's not a heavy bag. Tyler hits back. Tyler's a sparring partner. So go orthodox. All right. I think to myself, ooh, I can't wait to try my new southpaw moves. And I go, ha ha! Boom! Send it right away. Because you know what I have not practiced?
Defense.
Defense. I've got no defense in southpaw. Because you know what happens the second you pressure someone who's in their unnatural stance in the beginning stages? And we're like this. I go, oh, I know, I'll switch. He starts in the right. I will immediately default back to what I know. You tried it in a tournament, remember? Tyler was way ahead on this guy. And I said, hey, you started out orthodox. You were standing orthodox. And I was like, yeah, let's do this round orthodox to get some practice in against this guy. And he threw like he threw one attack at you. And you're like, never mind.
Yeah, I want to win.
Yeah, and you've thrown plenty of punches and kicks at a bag and in drilling from orthodox. But once someone's throwing back at you, it all changes.
Sparring a little bit too, but not. It is different when you're like full speed and you're in like fight or flight mode.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what you do. So you want to switch stances. You want to be bistantial, right? You have to practice your defense first. Build a foundation of defense. It's the same way you learned, or you should have learned, how to fight conventionally. Build a foundation of defense. So what you do is say you're normally a southpaw, right? And I normally have a hell of a time getting to you and hitting you. It's very difficult. So it's very comforting for you to do that. You need to spend time in orthodox working on defense in ways that you don't normally do, like head movement. Yeah,
I don't do a lot of head movement.
You'll watch his head movement doesn't look like very Tyson-esque because it's not something he practices a lot. Boom, take that shoulder to that knee. He's used to fading away, playing that southpaw game. You know, crunch that thing down. Boom, yeah. Oosh, yeah. Yeah. It's just not stuff he does. So what you do is next time you come into sparring, do it with like the guys that kind of suck.
Yeah.
Right? So here's what you do. Next time we're in sparring and you're going with one of the guys that's not that good, right? Start in orthodox. Commit to orthodox and just defend. Build a foundation of defense before you start adding in the offense. I.e., the same way you learned how to fight the way you fight now. That's the key. Go with guys who are not as good as you. That's when you learn best. You know, some people think, oh, you got to fight guys who are better than you to get better.
The newer people.
Newer people.
That's the way.
Newer people. Yeah, we'll go with that. Not the guys that suck.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any.
Guys that aren't kind of good.
Yeah. The newer people. Go with them because it'll let you, they'll be more predictable, they'll be slower, and you'll be able to practice this stuff that's not normal for you instead of defaulting to your A game. Because when he goes with me, he's got to bring his A game. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is mostly targeted towards a beginner or intermediate sparring with other beginners or intermediates. The meta and the stance switch game changes as we become more advanced. Don't worry, you'll have some better stuff in you by the time that you're fighting in the UFC or fighting in one championship. The reason that it's different is my motivation for switching. My motivation for switching was not that I was threatening and initiating with my stance switches. Does anyone remember what my motivation for switching was?
Because you were in trouble.
Yeah, things were going poorly for me, either offensively or defensively. That could mean that me and Tyler were sparring or fighting, and he starts getting the better of me, and I switch defensively. This is a good time to practice it. In fact, my whole southpaw thing, when I switch southpaw against orthodox fighters, is just to buy time, to shut down the jab, move away from their power side, and play a southpaw defensive game. That's why I switch, is because I'm in trouble. Offensively, people, maybe they'll have trouble cracking this nut here, and they're just not really getting anything going, and they think, oh, I know. Ay-ya! That's what I need to do. It's a fine move. But what if, when I switch, Tyler does what he's supposed to do and immediately starts sending that right hand? I was setting it up. I was consciously thinking about it. It wasn't a subconscious thing. At the higher levels, Demetrius Johnson just recently in won, and he does it a lot in his fights. He'll use his stance switches off of kicks, right? Like he'll kind of feint a kick and initiate like that. You'll see that at high levels. That's one little thing. Maybe you can start doing it. Start sending a kick, sending a kick, boom, 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 that sort of thing. He's not stance switching because he's in trouble. He's stance switching to initiate and to attack. It's a mental attack. You know, this is a form of a feint.
Yeah.
And you're controlling them mentally in that moment because they respect your kicks. Beginners, intermediates, oftentimes there's not a lot of like mutual respect. It's like one guy will be a little bit better than the other and he'll kind of hammer on him the whole round, or vice versa. At the higher levels, there's a lot more going on that you can't see, and a lot of that is these mental attacks where we're having and you might think that you're doing it, and you should practice that on people who are newer than you. But for the most part, within your first few years of sparring and fighting, anytime you see a stance switch, that should be a green light to get onto the punch or the kick. There's other things. We've done videos about southpaws before. I'll link them up top and at the end. Get on the gas immediately. That stance switch in front of you is a green light.